Okay, so for 4.1, we're going to go ahead and go through lines and angles. You guys already hopefully a review. We have a couple of vocabulary words here that are really important. So again, I'm kind of going through just the stuff that you really need to know for future math classes. So vertical angles are basically going to always create an X. So a vertical angle is going to be two angles that are directly across from each other. So anytime you have vertical angles, you will see an X happening within your drawing. So there are going to be two angles across from each other that are congruent. So even these two on the other side, and notice I have two little kind of halos there, those two are also congruent. Complementary angles are going to be two angles that add up to 90 degrees. So we would need to know that they're 90 degrees, and maybe it's two angles here. This one plus this one, they would add up to 90 degrees. Supplementary angles and linear pairs are very similar because they both add up to 180 degrees. So just keep that in mind. Again, a linear pair is a pair of angles that form a straight line or are supplementary angles. This is another example of vertical angles. Again, you'll see this X happening, and we're told that angle 1 is congruent to angle 3, and angle 2 is congruent to angle 4. So let's go ahead and apply this to an example of something that you can see maybe in real world. So these are cross braces. So basically this already tells us that this is a complete metal bracket, basically here and here. So if it's a complete metal bracket, it is basically going to create a linear pair. It's a straight line. It's one piece of construction. So this may not need to say linear pair in it, but whenever I'm talking about real world, this is one total bracket, okay? One piece of wood, in this case, one piece of metal. So part A is to list the linear pairs and the vertical angles. So for part A, my linear pairs are going to be any pairs that will add up to 180 degrees. We have several of those. We have this one here. I have 146 degrees plus angle 7. I also could have angle 6 and angle 7. That also creates a straight line. So does angle 5 and angle 6. So does angle 5 and 146 degrees. Those are all the linear pairs that we have for this one. As far as vertical angles are concerned, vertical angles create the X, and that's exactly what we have here. And we also have that X. You should see an X here. So I know that angle 6 and angle 146 are going to be a linear pair because they're across from each other. Therefore, they're congruent. The other linear pair that we have across from each other is angle 5 and angle 7. Those are also, I'm sorry, vertical angles, if I said that. I think I said linear a second ago. So that is your answer. Those two are answers for your part A. Okay. For part B, I'm going to go ahead and write that in green. Find each angle measure. All right. So I know off the bat that if using vertical pairs, if this is 146 degrees, then angle 6, because it's a vertical pair, I see the X, angle 6 has to be 146 degrees. This is my part B that I'm working on right now. Okay. I was also told that a linear pair is, for example, 146 and 7. So if 146 and angle 7 is a linear pair, then I know that 146 plus angle 7 adds up to 180 degrees. Therefore, I can find angle 7 by subtracting 146 on both sides. Minus 146. So angle 7 is going to equal 34 degrees. And I can even draw it directly on here if I want. Now to find angle 5, which is my last one, I could do a couple of things. I could use the linear pair theorem, and I noticed that 146 and angle 5 are a linear pair. I could add them up and set them equal to 180. Or since I found angle 7 already, I know that angle 7 is congruent to angle 5. So if angle 7 is 34 degrees, then angle 5 is also 34 degrees. And that's it for example 1. Okay, for example 2, we have the measures of two vertical angles is x plus 3 and 2x minus 7. Find the value of x and what is the measure of each angle. So I'm going to go ahead and draw this out for you. So it says the measures of two vertical angles. When I see vertical angles, that means that it's creating an x. I know that one of these vertical angles is x plus 3 degrees, and the other vertical angle is 2x minus 7 degrees. So because I understand the theorem of vertical angles, I know that when I have vertical angles, that they have to be equal or congruent to each other. So the question is asking me to find the value of x, so I'm going to go ahead and solve. Again, if you guys would like to hit pause on the video, I suggest that you do that just to make sure that your algebra is good. So you can hit pause and then hit play whenever you're finished solving for x. Go ahead and do that now. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and subtract x from both sides. I'm going to get 3 equals x minus 7, and then I'm going to add 7 to both sides, so I'm going to get 10 equals x. Or by symmetry property, x equals 10. The second part of the problem is asking what is the measure of each angle? So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to plug 10 into my equation. So one of the angles was x plus 3. So if I know that x is 10, one of my angle measures is going to be 13 degrees. Now if I did my problem correctly, vertical angles are always congruent. So right off the bat, the other angle should also be 13 degrees. But this is a great way to go ahead and verify that you did your math correctly. So you know what? I'm going to go ahead and plug in to 2x minus 7. Again, my x is 10. Excuse me. I get 20 minus 7, which is 13, and it's degrees as well. So now I've been able to check that my answer is correct. So what is the measure of each angle? 13 degrees. What is the value of x? 10. So that is my solution for example 2. Lastly, we could have a combination of using several of these properties together. So use the diagram below to find the missing angle measures and explain your reasoning. So one thing that would be helpful is that if they said that AD was a line, let's assume that they said that. We're going to assume right now that if it looks like a line, that it is. So I'm also going to say that BE is a line as well. Now that should be in the actual instructions, okay? Because we shouldn't assume that it's a line. So I'm adding this on as if it were in my instructions. So use the diagram to find the missing angles. All right, so to find the missing angles, that means I need to find every single angle all the way around. Okay, you guys? I don't know which ones are equal yet or not, but we'll figure it out. So first and foremost, I know that angle CFD, which is this one right here, is 90 degrees. I also know that angle BFC, this one here, is 50 degrees. Those are my givens. Okay? Now, let's say I want to find angle AFB. Let's start there. Angle AFB is going to be this angle right here. I'm going to write it in red. Maybe try color coding it. So I know that if AD is a line, then I know that all three of these add up to 180 degrees because it's a full line, it's supplementary angles. So the way that I could solve that is I know that this little notch here, this little square, is 90 degrees plus 50 degrees, which is my next angle, plus angle AFB. All three of those added together are going to be supplementary because they create this straight line here. So they all add up to 180. So let's do a little bit of math. 90 plus 50 is 140. 140 plus angle AFB equals 180. And then I'm going to subtract 140 on both sides. And I'm going to get angle AFB is 40 degrees. Okay, I'm going to move on. Now, when I try to find AFE, I'm really not able to do anything with that so far. So let's skip AFE for right now. And let's see if I can find this one here. Can I find angle DFE? Oops, sorry. Can I find angle DFE? This one right here. Well, if I know this is a line and I know this is a line, if I hone in on that, do you guys see the X that I'm creating here in blue? If I'm creating an X, then that means this angle is congruent to this angle. So actually, angle DFE is congruent to angle AFB. Well, I just found AFB in the last problem. So if these two are congruent, then I know that DFE has to also be 40 degrees. Okay, the last unknown angle that I need to solve for is angle, let's see if I can squeeze it over here, AFE. So what is angle AFE? This guy right here. Okay. Well, if I know that angle DFE is 40, I see a straight line happening here, right? This is a straight line. So I know that angle DFE plus the angle I'm trying to find, AFE, if I add those two together, they create a linear pair. And I just found out from my last piece that angle DFE is equal to 40 degrees. And now I can isolate my AFE by subtracting 40 on both sides. Therefore, angle AFE, when I subtract 40 on both sides, is going to equal 140 degrees. And now I have solved for every single unknown. Okay, now that you have an idea of how to do a problem, you're really looking for linear pairs, you're looking for straight lines. Maybe they'll add in a little right angle in there to help you out, but you're also looking for vertical angles. So try to picture those X's that are happening within your problem, because that tells you that the angles across from each other are congruent as well. I know that looks a little bit sloppy, but hopefully that made sense.